Nothing says January quite like taking down all the Christmas decorations and figuring out what to do with the tree.
But folks here in Charleston have a good option, and it doesn't involve a wood chipper. The DEP's Brianna Hickman has that story.
At times, on this January 2nd, it looked like everybody's New Year's resolution was to drop off their tree at the DEP's annual Christmas tree recycling event. Cars and trucks, and even one big truck, lined up to add their used spruces, balsams, and firs to the ever-growing fragrant pile. The collection event, a joint program of the DEP's REAP program and the West Virginia Division of Natural Resources, gathers the trees to use as fish habitat in lakes around the state.
Fish like to have structure. They orient themselves around some structure for protection and shade and just a good place to hide. So everything from smaller fish, bait fish that other fish eat, and big fish will orient themselves to these cluster of recycled Christmas trees. So it's a great place for fish to hide and to hang out in the shade, especially in the summertime.
Trees are bundled and placed along the edge of the shoreline while the lakes are drawn down to their winter pools. When the water levels are raised in the spring, the trees submerge and provide shelter for fish, and attractive targets for anglers come summer. It takes a couple of years for the tree to break down in the water, and then they're replaced. Fortunately, there are plenty of trees and plenty of lakes to go around. This batch of trees are headed to Tigert, Burnsville, Stonecoal, and Big Ditch Lakes.
I think it's a great program. It helps with the fish habitats, and it also helps with the landfills not being filled up with the trees, and they're actually getting recycled instead of just thrown away.
It does keep them out of the landfill, and anything we can do to cut down on what we put into the landfills is a good thing, and particularly with something that is organic, that doesn't really need to be in a landfill. It's a good use for creating fish habitat, and it just everybody wins.
In Charleston, I'm Brianna Hickman for Environment Matters.
Organizers say this was another very successful year with well over 1,000 trees collected.
The show Salvage Dogs begins its 5th season on the DIY Network February 28th. The show stars Mike Whiteside and Robert Culp from Black Dog Architectural Salvage in Roanoke, Virginia.
The show focuses not only on saving historical period details from old buildings slated for demolition, but also upcycling a lot of that material into furniture and other decorative items. We caught up with the pair when they were speaking at an event in Huntington about a year ago, and we thought you'd enjoy a second look.
The majority of this stuff is just going to go in the landfill, and it's not going to benefit anybody.
All that potential energy of the people that created it being ground up and put in the ground is not a good thing.
Mike Whiteside and Robert Culp are familiar faces to anyone who watches the DIY Network program Salvage Dogs. The show follows Mike and Robert and the crew at Black Dog Salvage in Roanoke, Virginia, as they rescue architectural material, hardware, and fittings from abandoned homes and buildings slated for demolition and repurposes it for resale. Think of it as upcycling on a grand scale.
It shows people that there's an alternative waste stream. Instead of throwing it away or throwing it in a barn and letting it rot, that there's a public out there that's looking for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, and it's whether we're making an actual physical impact ourselves. I mean, obviously we are in some way. If we can just publicize that and get more people thinking in the right way and participating in it, the only way it's actually going to really make an impact is if we're all doing it.
The pair spoke at the West Virginia Educational Conference on Litter Control and Waste Management held recently in Huntington. The annual conference is sponsored by the Association of West Virginia Solid Waste Authorities and the DEP and focuses on recycling, reuse, and sustainability, and that's where the Salvage Dogs fit in.
Our first recommendation is always save it. Save it where it sits. We realize that's not the way the world works. Economics don't work that way, and we believe in private property and highest and best use. And sometimes that means something's going to get torn down. But let's save what's valuable there, and just go to that little bit of extra effort instead of just.
Believe it or not, we would rather see a house saved or a home or a building saved because it's standing. It's in its original configuration. You know, what we get out are parts, and those parts have to be either repurposed or reconfigured or sold for their intended purpose, like a door. Hey, you know what? It can be a door again.
Or it could be a table.
Or a headboard.
Yeah,
or a
right.
coffee table. You know, there's a lot of things a door can be, but it's best if it can stay in its original configuration.
And part of the show's popularity comes from seeing that creative reuse and the possibilities that material that would otherwise be headed for a landfill can present.
So we're such a small company, we can't save it all. And as I said earlier, we don't want to, because we'll be buried under it.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work, and it's a lot of stuff. There's more than we can ever capture ourselves. But if you can bring awareness to people and the fun part of it, I mean, you know, we work hard, but we have a good time doing it, and it's worth saving our heritage. It's worth saving the things that are historical, or even just good craftsmanship, solid wood that for years and still today are thrown away.
Mike and Robert say because of their location in Roanoke, their travels frequently take them into West Virginia.
You can find out more by visiting the website blackdogsalvage.com. We're back in a moment.